Welcome back for the final segment, 404 in volunteer management, standards, good practices, and practical solutions. This is probably one of my favorite segments, and it's because it really helps us build some muscles where I don't think a lot of us have been focusing on building in sport. Sport people tend to be so focused on the next outcome, achieving the next goal, that we often forget to pause and A, assess whether or not what we're doing is as good as it can be, and B, we forget to reward ourselves. We forget to express thanks and gratitude and really pause long enough to, figure out what worked, what could we do differently, and let's just really enjoy the fact that we've achieved this milestone. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the importance of performance evaluation. Now, here's the irony, folks. We are evaluating performance all the time on the field of play. So coaches and athletes, I would say, are flexing that muscle really well. They want to know what they can do better, and they are continuously finding ways to evaluate their performance and to make the small incremental adjustments required. And yet on the administrative side, I would say that we are at risk because we don't tend to have the same kind of discipline or approach that our coaches and athletes do. So if we import what they do so naturally on the field of play, let's see where that takes us. So some examples for you to consider. I'm a big believer in conducting an evaluation of the senior-most staff person or volunteer. Now, I understand for the volunteers who are on the call, you're probably struggling with, how do I, as a volunteer, assess the performance of another volunteer? That feels kind of strange. So I think we have to acknowledge that discomfort and then move past it. A learning organization wants to have a culture of growth and a culture of curiosity and a culture of, well, how did we do this? What did we learn? And what could we do better? Those are healthy conversations to have. And so regardless if you're paid staff or you're volunteer only, I strongly recommend that there's an evaluation process in place to document not only that you've had the process, you've had the conversation, but that hopefully it's an empowering and uplifting conversation for both the person who's doing the evaluating and the person who is self-evaluating. So there's lots of great practices you can import, I'm sure, what you've done as professionals, and consider bringing some of those into your club. Here's another little, sticky subject. I don't know how many boards actually pause long enough to do a 360 review. And it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. Well, we're just volunteers, Dina. Again, if we acknowledge that what we're trying to do is create a culture of performance excellence, both on the field and off the field, a good practice is to have the board self-evaluate. Now, it can be as lean as, let's have a conversation once a year and figure out how well we did as a board. If you don't have a strategic plan in place, you're kind of shooting blindly. If you don't have a map and compass, or you don't have set objectives that you were hoping to focus on, then your conversation becomes a little bit more challenging. Well, what did we say we wanted to do? The whole purpose here is to avoid duplicating the efforts of the people that are below the line, the operational volunteers or the operational staff. So having some spine, what I call spine documents or spine tools in place, will allow you to have a more precise conversation around your performance as a board. And it's, again, it could be as simple as a conversation amongst board members. I think it's really healthy to have other people evaluate your performance. So have the staff answer a couple of questions. Again, the internet is full of different models, and you can import what you know as a professional in your own work life. What I would encourage you to do is at least have a conversation between your peers on the board. If you are up for the task, I would encourage you to ask your staff or operational volunteers, how do you think we did? And if you're really wanting to challenge yourself, consider inviting the members to provide you with feedback. That kind of opens up that whole accountability. It helps to create trust in the environment and will likely result in enhanced performance. Not for the faint of heart. So related to that, if you have that learning culture in place, then it doesn't become top down, you're not the boss of me. It becomes what did we do really well in this project and what did we learn that we won't do again? If you can adopt that learning mindset, it just feels like the organization starts to thrive. I do believe that on any major projects, a really healthy practice is how well did we do? What did we learn? What will we do differently? And this would include not just major projects, but also crisis. So if you've had to deal with any crisis, it could be a harassment issue, it could be a brand reputation management issue, whatever the topic is, it's a time for you to pause and do what we call a post-mortem. Figure out the answers to these questions, and then you will learn and grow as an organization. So we're wrapping up this module, and I'm going to spend just a little bit of time here, honoring the contribution of the people who are volunteering their time. 80% of sport is driven by volunteer contribution. Sport in its current state could not exist without the contribution from people like you on the call. So really important for us to acknowledge that beyond paying someone, often people are looking for different ways to feel valued. And that includes often little small things like being recognized. So it could be a letter of recommendation if they asked you for one. It could be a little note that expresses gratitude from the staff to the volunteers, or from the volunteers to the staff for the work that they do. It could be a little bit of a spotlight moment where at an impromptu gathering, you actually call out the individual that you want to acknowledge for their above and beyond contribution. So that's an important aspect as well of signaling someone's contribution that's a little bit maybe in a more public setting. You can do it at your AGM or at a board meeting or at a congress or wherever you feel it's appropriate. But the idea of signaling someone's contribution is a very good practice. Gifts of recognition, and what I say here is scale appropriately. One of my favorite gifts came from a volunteer role that I played with the West Ottawa Soccer Club, which is a local club here. And at the time, the technical director at Christmas, he knew that I like Starbucks, so he gave me a $10 Starbucks voucher with a handwritten note saying thanks for coming out and making a difference in the lives of these kids. But then he gave one of my other co-coaches, a Timmy's gift card because he knew she liked Timmy's and I like Starbucks. I can't tell you what difference that made to me as a volunteer, knowing he went the extra mile to personalize that gift of recognition. A $10 Starbucks card went a long way in helping me feel valued. And the amount of hours that goes into coaching, as everyone knows, it's a small way of saying thank you, but it can have a huge impact. So scale that appropriately. For some, it might mean naming a boardroom or a special chair and in the boardroom. It could be a jersey. It could be all kinds of different things. The point is you want to scale it appropriately. A really good practice is to host these volunteer appreciation gatherings. So it could be a fun evening out. It could be a Christmas kind of dinner where you bring in those volunteers who you feel are going above and beyond, and you're acknowledging with gratitude their contribution through a dinner with staff and the board. It's a fun, informal way that starts to build and foster community, and that's really important in terms of cultivating that culture of trust, and a culture of learning and a culture of performance requires community. These kind of informal ways of expressing gratitude help you do just that. And finally, encouraging staff and volunteers to also show appreciation for each other in a number of different ways. So I'm sure this wouldn't surprise you. Comment boxes can be really helpful in terms of ways we can improve the technical side of the house or the performance of the organization. But a good client of mine actually what they did is they had a comment box that invited employees and volunteers to nominate someone, because that person was expressing the values, was living the values of the organization in a really powerful way. And so once a month they would pull a name from the comment box and, you know, kind of shower that person with appreciation at a luncheon. So, you know, little things like that can go a long way to reinforcing the kinds of behaviors you're hoping to have more of in the organization. So that's it from us. We hope that you've enjoyed the volunteer management module. Lots of things that we've talked about are ways in which you can show appreciation, make sure you have shared accountability, you have clarity of roles and responsibility, and it really starts with a foundation of excellence, that you have the right policies in place to support better decision making. A deep bow of gratitude to Marcy Morris, the Executive Director of the Ottawa Sport Council, for making this possible. I absolutely love working with Marcy and her team, and Cirque for hosting these modules, as well as to all of you who are taking the time out of your busy schedule to improve your performance so that the experience on the field of play can be a really positive and rewarding one for the athlete. So thank you. This concludes the Volunteer Management Standards, Good Practices, and Practical Solution. You can continue learning by watching the other modules in this series: Governance, Building Your Best Board, and How to Facebook. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon.